I had no clue what I wanted to do at your age. So it means that, even if you already know this, that's already a big advantage. But if you don't know, it's not a big deal. Actually, you still can can do whatever you want to do. But the good thing is that you're really motivated to achieve great things. So I studied in Torino, in Polytechnico di Torino. I studied electronic engineering. And the last year I went to Belgium. I spent, well, actually the first time, well, I spent 9 years in total, but then I did an Erasmus. So everybody, Italians know what an Erasmus is. Basically, it's an exchange program for students. I did my thesis there and some exams. It was French-speaking parts. Belgium, there are 3 languages, so I learned French, which I forgot now because well, I didn't forget, but I'm not really, it's a bit rusty, I would say, to say the least. Then I stayed another 2 years for a PhD in optoelectronics. At that time, optoelectronics was a big thing, and 3 years later, it was a big crash, actually, so a nightmare for people who stayed. I didn't finish my PhD because I was not interested in the PhD. I actually tried to continue my experience as an Erasmus student. And I realized very quickly that the PhD student life was not exactly the same as an Erasmus student life. At that time, I was just enjoying life. I was not really motivated to do, and I'm trying to be honest here, and I was not really motivated to do, to achieve a particular specific goal at the time. For sure, I was driven by the technology, by the fact that the innovation, there was something inside, probably I didn't even know about, and I was not clear in my mind what I wanted to do, but at least I had in mind the fact that technology was something that I really liked. So I joined Alcatel. Who knows Alcatel? Nobody, I guess. Well, Alcatel was one of the pioneers of the ADSL. ADSL was the very fast internet. Now it doesn't exist anymore. But for my generation, it was the next, the real thing. I was there doing, I was a reliability engineer, actually. I graduated at Torino as I said, electronic engineering. And then I spent a couple of years as a product engineer. Then I moved in the same company in procurement. And then I liked a lot of the interaction about, doing activities with, with people and negotiations. And I liked that more than just the mere technical aspects. I stayed there, as I said, 9 years. So 5 years, I spent 5 years more or less in Antwerp. And then I was, I felt the need or the call from Italy. I kind of missed that. Belgium is a nice country, but it's raining all the time. It's not like here. It's raining and it's really gray sky. Probably I kind of missed my roots, and I said, okay, maybe it's time to go back to Italy. And I found an opportunity with Elis. Elis is a competitor of Incal. It was in Italy. And I started as a procurement manager. Elis is also a public company now. If you Google it, you find it. And I moved through the ranks there up to the CEO, actually. How did I get there? I think one of the best piece of advice is do whatever you're doing now at your best. And that's the best thing you can do, even if you don't know. And even if you know this is not going to be the job of your lifetime, try to do what you can do at best. So I guess I did great, or I did good. I don't know. I did quite good enough to earn the trust of the owner in Italy. And that's maybe the first try. I'm trying to now compare Italy versus the Silicon Valley. And I suggest a book here, Managing Corporate Life Cycles. It talks about, the author is Adizes. It talks about how companies from a startup evolve to big corporations. It gives you good insights about the difficulties of a startup and and another good book, which is more recent, is The Bonfire Moment, and that's Martin Gonzalez. I actually know him. He's a Googler, and he spent his life and his career as an HR looking at startups. I know him, so if you have questions, I think you can ask him probably directly. This book is a bestseller, actually. So I was saying the comparison between a startup, Silicon Valley and Italy. In Italy, 80% of market is driven by, all the industry is driven by PMI, so small and medium enterprises. There's an owner, a founder, then there's family. Family, most of the time, equals manager. And there's little space for managers in Italy, especially even for big companies. You see a lot of companies like Barilla or other companies, there's always a family, and then there is a management team. Even if they go big, still there is a family imprinting that is very big. Here it's different. You go with an idea, you go to venture capitalists, you win their trust and they put money, and maybe the day after will tell you you're not a CEO material. So you just have to move and stay aside and say you will be probably the CTO or something else. That's the difference. The capitals enter the company much sooner, much earlier, in that a much earlier stage than when it's in Italy. In Italy, maybe never. So in Italy, and the same thing, because of this, also, if you look at the job and the salary is here is more dynamic, you know that, and also salary differences between a manager and an employee are here like this. In Italy, it's like this probably. So this is one of the main differences. When you have an idea, you have a great idea. Of course, you have to convince venture capitalists. You have to convince angel investors, or you go to Sand Hill Road here, Sand Hill Road. You've heard about that, and you find all the venture capitalists all there. I don't know if I can say there's a road in Italy where you can find venture capitalists. Maybe it's changing, maybe it's different now, but still, there's a family, and then it's like business is a family thing. That's the main difference, I would say. So I moved back to Italy, I became CEO, and that was a very weird, unusual thing for an Italian company. We wanted to be public. One of the things that has changed in Italy is that for small and medium enterprises, there is now what is called elite program. So you can go and be public if you want to. Of course, you have to go through a process of certification, and you can become public and have some external funds. That's what we did. So going back to my story, I became CEO and we applied to become certified, elite certified. At that time, we wanted to acquire a company in Silicon Valley. Found an agreement, but the owner didn't want to proceed. At that time, that was one of the things that probably I can share with you. I said a big no. Basically, I lost my job. I didn't have a job. And I was convinced that I would find a job, but I stayed 6 months with nothing. I have a family, of course, 2 kids. At the time, it was 3 and 5, 3 and 7 years old. I started to look for a job because I needed something to eat. One of the greatest advice I got from my mentor was, because I was looking for a job, any job. And he said, Alberto, if you can stay without a job, try to find something that you like and do not undersell yourself. And if you have I know it's very difficult, I'm telling you this, but it's not something easy to do. But if you can afford it, just do not take any job. And that's what I did. Actually, I waited, and then I got a job as a general manager in Master. This is how I came to the US. So I went to the US. Maybe somebody's interested to understand how can you. Maybe Dario wants to know how to get here, and it's not easy. It's not easy. But I actually, probably one of the ways is, there's a need of an Italian company, Master. Maybe you know this company is in northern Italy. It's a $500 million company now. It's a contract manufacturer. They were looking for a country manager, a general manager in the US. They had 2 subsidiaries, one in South Carolina, one in Georgia. It's not always Silicon Valley that you have the first opportunity, but I took it. So South Carolina is in the East Coast, completely different environment. More, I would say a country of the South in the US, but a great experience and great country as well. I stayed 3 years there, and then I left technology. I stayed in touch with the guys there. They had a plan. Actually, the owner of the company wanted to retire. They said, okay, why don't you join? And that's how I joined. They applied for the green card for me, and that's how I got here. Okay, so the plan was to, of course, run the company. I started in the technical area first to learn the company, and then I became CEO. We had a great product. We have a great product, which was for the high power. Now AI is really, you asked me about semiconductors, how is it going? In the next, in 2030, today it's I think $500 billion, it will reach $1 trillion in 2030. That's the estimates. So it's still a very good outlook, especially for AI. Everybody talks AI. I don't know if it's going to be this in the next bubble like internet in 2000. I don't think so. I don't know, but people should remember what happened in 2000. You don't, but in 2000 was a crash of the market and all telecom. And everything that was with the sign at was great. Everything was super great, and everybody was investing money there. It looks similar to what is happening with AI, even if it looks more real, I would say, not like a bubble. I don't know how it looked 20 years ago, the internet, but it was still good, all the telecom actually. Anyway, so we have a great product, and then we attracted the interest of a lot of people. And probably having a great product, it's not easy, but it filled really a need for the market in that moment. And then Air was a company that is a competitor of ours, saw our growth. And not only Air, there were other companies really interested in the company. They acquired us, and then we closed the deal a month ago. And since then, I'm now running basically the burn-in business at Air. Basically, what we were doing in Inkel, now it's division of Air. In the meantime, while I was, I was in Antwerp, I had this maybe your question is, okay, how can I get there where I want to be? And I don't even know where I want to be. I was trying to, looking at MBAs or school. I was really attracted by that. So I felt the need that I wanted to study. When I became general manager in Ellis, my need was really there, saying, oh, you've been promoted general manager, you need to be prepared for that. So I started my, I would say, academic career there as well, in parallel with the professional career. And I studied at Lewis, the MBA. I did the MBA at Lewis. And I also had an interest in HR. Don't ask me why, but I like HR as well. And I did a master in Cranfield, an international human resource management master. And then I got passionate about behavioral economics. I don't know if you have heard about that. I love this. That's my passion, I guess, together with technology. And I did a master also at the London School of Economics, in London. And then when I came here, of course, I wanted to also spend some money on a nice university here. So I did a certificate of management excellence at Harvard, where I met, I wanted to meet with some, experts in the behavioral economics field. I met with Francesca Gino, who's an Italian. She's a professor. Actually, she's not anymore because there was a scandal there. But, it was great experience there. When I look back, I could tell you a very nice narrative about, all the things I did or everything looks like, oh, it makes sense. Everything, you connect backwards, everything. It looks like a perfect puzzle where you wanted that and you reached that. Reality is not like this. Many times you do things, and many times I wanted to give up. Many times I wanted to say, well, why am I doing this? And that sucks. Several times during this, I was attracted by opportunities just for salary. I was not chosen. So otherwise, I wouldn't be here otherwise. I would be somewhere else. This is to say that, I don't think that the real path or perfect path from A to B exists and it's real. I think it's always, when I tell you a story, it matches, it makes sense. But what I can tell you for sure is that there is something that drives you somewhere. So follow this. And I don't think that some people are very lucky. Maybe some of you, I want to do this. I wish I knew this when I was 20. It's never been the case. But if you don't know what you want to be, at least you know what you like, at least you know what your passion is, at least you know what drives you. Follow this at least and try to see where you're good at, because that will drive you somewhere. Maybe you think that in 10 years you will be doing the CEO of your startup. Maybe you will end up with something else which fulfills your desires and the things you love. So probably the thing is, explore what you really want, but I wouldn't be so worried if you don't know, if you cannot picture yourself exactly in a position, in a box. And somehow it will turn out that, the thing is, it's so long that you have, in 10 years, if you remember this conversation now, and probably you are here where you are. In 10 years, you will be somewhere else you will tell, oh, I remember this conversation right now. I cannot believe I did all this. Because, and this is probably the trust that you by doing what you like, will get you somewhere that you cannot believe. It's, even if you dream about something, it will be probably even exceeding what your dream is today. And as long as you put effort and you put energy into it, of course, that's And one of the things that, the CEO of NVIDIA recently had an interview. He said, I wish you pain and suffering, because he meant it's not something that it's easy to do. It's not something that I always like to do, this role. And you would say, oh, this guy is great. I mean, he likes what he does. But the thing is, it doesn't come with you. Again, if you have an idea, I feel that it's easy to talk to the managing director, to the CEO of a company here. You don't have to go through the secretary or to the office and never get an answer. Yes, there is a hierarchy, but it's also true that everything is easy and quick. A lot of things, if you read Italian, you can read in the book my experience about what I did in South Carolina, since you mentioned that. But I think a lot of things apply also here in general. If you talk about the power distance, or you talk about the contest in the US versus Italy, that's also different. So the way you talk about the communication, the power distance, and the culture is different from, it's easy to talk about, it's very direct here, it's very, I would say, even if the communication is not always straightforward. So you try to, you have to be careful in, confrontation. So you don't confront to somebody like in Italy, it's easy to really have an argument, but I would be more careful here. But again, these are things that you can find. That's a bit of funny stories about all the misunderstandings when you have in different cultures. But you live and you come from different cultures. Yes.
You shared some differences between like the Italian and American culture. But after you came to the American company and now your company got acquired, what are the differences that you found in operating a private company versus now a division in the public company?
That's a good question. I'm learning it every day now. Public company, everything has to be formalized. You have to be careful in what you say. Name of customers, outlook of the business, and there's more bureaucracy, I would say. In a private company, you just go, no issue, no problem, nobody looks at you, and that's the main difference. And I'm still learning about that. So, and it's not easy to do an integration, to integrate two companies, two different cultures, and we are 3 miles away, 4 kilometers from each other. So imagine a company that acquires. I had the similar experience when actually I was managing, when I was in a master, I was managing an American company, and it was acquired prior to my arrival. That company was acquired in 2015, I think, by Elemaster, an Italian company. There you add the complexity of 2 different cultures that have to talk together. This is a private company as well, the Master, but still there was another complexity. But yes, when it's a public company, everything is more formal, and you have to be following some rules.
You mentioned that it was completed like a month ago.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been much time, but whatever. You have started working there already?
Yes. I'm in 2 offices now, even if it's 3 miles away, but yes.
One interesting thing you mentioned that your Italian company was trying to acquire. What happened to the acquisition then? And because you mentioned the founder wanted to sell or wanted to back off, retire, so why wasn't he willing to just sell his company?
So I was willing to sell. We were willing to buy, but then the owner decided not to go for it. And that's when I left the company. That's when I said, sometimes you have, that was one of the biggest no I said. Because I had a nice position. I was the CEO of LS. And I could have stayed. And I didn't stay. Did I regret that? Well, I was a bit scared when I did that, but I think it was one of the best decisions. It's one of the best. It turns out that the best decisions are always when you say no to something, not when you say yes. So me saying no to this was 9 months of, oh my God, what am I going to do next? But then it turned out that I came to the US and I even wrote a book about this. I found my way with a different path.
Did Air acquire for the technology or the people? Like, what was special about it?
The technology, I would say. Yes. I hope for the people as well. Yeah, a bit for the people, but I think it's technology.
So they're both in the same industry. You mentioned they're competitors?
We used to be competitors, but they have a different technology but yeah, we are in the same industry. Definitely in the same industry.
So everyone likes to build software because it's easy, but hardware, that with semiconductor, I think it's one of the hardest.
This is a good point. I wanted to bring this as well. When I came here the first time, I was with Alice, an Italian company. We were trying to get some interest from some investors. One of the things, I met with Professor Alberto Salamone. Have you heard about him? I met with him. I was so honored to. I went to his house, and I would like to put in my resume this because he's the guy who co-founded Synopsys. He's in the board of a lot of companies. He's 80 now. He's so energetic. It was very inspiring. But he told me, "No way you're going to get any fund." That was his answer. So it was not really, a great answer. But he was right. He said now, and that was 10 years ago. Everybody here is focused on software. You sell equipment. Nobody's interested in that. In this particular case, because we had a very good product for AI, that's why we got interest. But definitely, probably still, it's more attractive to have apps or software-based companies more than piece of equipment. It's very capital intensive, very risky, so it's low margin sometimes. So, yeah. That was the answer. So one of the things is, if you're looking for investors, maybe if you have a capital-intensive business, unless it's
software and then transition to hardware later on, perhaps.
Say again?
Like if someone wants to eventually start a hardware company, first they should start a software company, make money, and then invest.
Maybe. It depends on the type of software, but of course.
It's hardware is easy now, or it's just as hard as before?
I think it's hard. I think it is. I think a software-based company is still a trend.
In the valley, how do you see, has the atmosphere changed around hardware companies, or it's still very much software dominated?
I would say it's not like it was 10 years ago, but there's still, I would say still maybe 70-30 software versus hardware.
Can I say something about that? I think I agree with them. There has been some recent changes because of the American dynamism and the whole bring back industrialism to US. So there has been a lot more deep tech, VC money going into hardware. I don't think it's hopeless, but it's definitely much easier to raise money off AI concepts than going to deep tech. But there's plenty of deep tech money going into hardware. So I wouldn't give up on it. If that's what you want.
Mine is software, so I don't care. It's good. Hardware. So I did my undergrad in mechanical engineering, so I'm interested in hardware stuff. But it's so hard to build hardware and then raise investment for it. So I'm like, okay, I'll do software instead. So, yeah.
Good point. Any other questions?
Maybe how difficult it was to, you were already, let's say, in a career in Italy and so on. How difficult it was to change and go to US with all the stuff around family and other things?
Good question. At that time, I was married. I'm still married, with 2 kids, 3 and 7. The thing is, it was very difficult, but we had so much enthusiasm to go that we overcame all the difficulties. Actually, I don't even remember it was really difficult. But then I realized, oh my God, we changed. That was really a big change. Sometimes when you do these types of changes, your kids suffer from that. You have these kind of a lot of issues that can happen. In my case, I would say I was lucky, but then I realized that probably it was our enthusiasm, me and my wife, that allowed us to do everything smoothly. And when I say smoothly, I'm not saying that everything was super nice and super easy. It helped our attitude to this adventure that what happened. Oh, sorry. I repeated that. So yeah, but it's not easy. Even if you love the US and you love to come here, especially if you come with a family, it's not really a piece of cake.
You mentioned that you were in a PhD program that you didn't finish. So I'm also supposed to start my PhD from this October, and I'm already thinking of dropping it. So, like, what made you go into a PhD, and what made you realize it's not for me?
You want the real answer or the truth? Or sorry, a very diplomatic answer would be whatever. But the truth is, I didn't do the PhD because I was motivated to do the PhD. I was not really so in love with optoelectronics. I had fun with Erasmus, that I said, oh, I have an opportunity here, I stay. There was a scholarship there, which I got. I was good enough to get admitted. That was in Louvain-la-Neuve in Belgium. But I was not really interested. So if you're interested, you go for it. I was not. And the moment I found a job, I just left. I said, okay, I don't care. I don't want to do this.
But you did mention that you did a lot of masters afterwards. So you're clearly interested in education.
I was in that case. I was, because I was not really interested in optoelectronics, PhD in optoelectronics. Even if I wrote a few articles there, but I wouldn't say that's the best piece of articles. Don't read that. I mean, it's really crap, probably. While when I was in LSE, I did write an article about meaning in product. I forgot about that. Meaning in productivity. So if you type in Google, you find can meaning make sense? By sense, it's not S-E-N-C in cents, but it's cents like dollars. So C-E-N-T-S. Basically, I started my own company, with a company I was working there for. I wanted to understand if, trying to explain in some way, priming people into the meaning of what they do, if that, even for low-level people, if that affects productivity or not. Well, I found that it was yes. Of course, that needs to be replicated, like in all scientific articles. I will be careful to draw conclusions on one article only. But if you want to read about the experiment, that's what I did. Yes, I was passionate about that. I'm still passionate about what?
Behavioral economics.
Behavioral economics, yes. But again, did all my studies bring me there? Maybe yes. The thing is, I use this all, when I work. For sure, I use it. If that's you can tell, or that allowed me to do this, I would say maybe yes, but who cares?
If you did a PhD in that, you could have continued.
Probably, but I was not really. I was bored. So, in PhD, you mean in optoelectronics?
No, mine is neuroscience. So.
Oh,
your PhD was in optoelectronics, you said, so you backed out. But perhaps if your PhD was in
oh, of course, I would have been. Yeah, probably. Yes.
Yeah, if you have the goal to become a manager or to reach a managing position, and you enter in a tech company in a technical position, so you start from the bottom. Is it the best idea to become maybe the best technician if your goal is to become to have a managing position, or maybe it's a better strategy to acquire more power and put your position in a more power one? And I don't know if I explained.
You work in Italy?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will start.
Okay. How do you get a position of power? You said, is it better to be a technical, or what do you mean by?
Yeah, maybe I don't know how to explain it. Maybe to become more to be more highlighted for maybe your bosses, and to show up more, and while being the best at your technical job.
It's like how important is being a good engineer to become perhaps a CEO like you became?
Yeah.
So how important was it?
Well, in my case, I don't think I was a great engineer. Probably that helped me. I don't know. But because if I were a good engineer, probably I would still be doing engineer activities, because nobody would, I was a kind of.
Like how important were your technical skills into becoming a president or attaining those management positions? So do you think, so you attained all the high level management positions, and how much do you think your technical skills contributed to that versus your other managerial skills?
To be honest, they did, actually. Otherwise, I can understand what the engineers talk about. I cannot maybe bring ideas. It's important to have a technical background, especially in the US, especially in Silicon Valley. I feel now that I have to study a bit more and to be more, a more technical person here, because that's more appreciated. For the case of Italy, unfortunately, it depends on the company you work. If it is a small company, again, we have a management that usually is father, son, sister, cousin, and then the father-in-law, and then the in-laws coming. I mean, unfortunately, that's what it is. Sometimes they're great companies, but the structure is like this. So there's not much room, especially for medium, small companies, unless you go to bigger companies. But if you want to become a manager, or you have this idea, go somewhere else and come back. That will help. Go outside of Italy and have broader experiences. Go to Europe, to go to US, go to somewhere. You learn your English. Not only English. Also, it's a different. I think that helped me a lot. Not only the Erasmus, but also having worked for 5 years in Belgium. That helped me because I came back and I had a different set of skills. Different, I'm not saying. And that was, a good business card for me to gain, to earn the trust of the owner. So I would say, if you stay in the same company, doing the same thing, you become an expert in engineering or whatever you do. It's difficult. Maybe you will be the manager of the engineers, because that's what happens. And sometimes it's a mistake from the companies. Google, Netflix, I know that they don't do this. They don't make these kind of mistakes. There's a manager, he has a different position, but in Italy or maybe even here, the best engineer becomes the manager, and then it's the worst manager probably. So you take away the best engineer from the team and you give him a position that he is not good at. So if you're really a good engineer or you're great at that, I don't know, ask yourself what you really want. But I would suggest probably, in my case especially, going abroad was key. Changing my mind, and when I came back, I could bring more value, probably.
What other skills besides technical skills do you think helped you attain the high-level management positions?
Being resilient, probably. I realized that even if I hate sometimes where I am, what I need to do, I don't give up easily. And probably the ability to be empathetic. And I don't like the word political, but I think that it's important to diplomatic, let's say. I mean, I want to tell him this because that's the right thing to do. It doesn't work. That's why I try to understand the other person. Believe always that they have good reasons to say this and not that you're right. It helps a lot. It was not easy to come here and and understand the context and try to change it. But you have to be patient and you have to wait for the right moment. And it's not easy also actually they're very nice, to be honest. So I cannot complain. But the integration is not always easy. So wait for your time. I'm saying honestly, would you do exactly the same way they do it? No. Is it now the right moment to say, oh, it's wrong? No. Is it easy to wait and look for the right time to say that's not the good way? No. So it's not now the right moment. So what is important is show your results, earn your trust, and then start to propose your ideas. So these are the skills that brings you probably somewhere. Excellent engineer, or you show you're right and you're going to tell him or her that's the right thing to do. Maybe sometimes, I don't know, what I think is being patient and resilient and find the right moment to say things. It doesn't mean that you accept everything. It doesn't mean that. Understand what you want to achieve and say, and also the need for pride. Don't be lured or attracted by being proud of yourself. Put it aside and ask yourself, what's my goal? And sometimes your goal is going to be here and your pride drives you here. Unless it's a matter of values. If that's something you stand for, no matter what, you cannot accept that. So do not fight for it. Yeah.
Between the ethnic study that you have done after the master, like after the engineer studies, what do you think has been the most valuable experience from between like LSE or Harvard?
The most valuable? LSE. Definitely LSE. Maybe because of the subject, behavioral economics. Because it gave me, I already was attracted by the fact that we are not rational all the time. And what drives this irrationality, and that's why I love that. Definitely this one. So of course I liked all I did after my engineering studies. I loved. All I did prior to that, I just was passing exams. I'm trying to be honest to myself. I said that's a reality. Okay, I was maybe good enough engineer, but I was not really the one who was, is going to change the world with this invention.
And what about the MBA? When you think is the best moment to start an MBA?
Well, there are two MBAs. One is the MBA, one is the executive MBA. So the MBA, after a few years of experience, you do that. You're answering also one of the things, that could be, I don't know if it is really now, I think it's still a good thing to do. Executive MBA after maybe 4 or 5 years, I would say, but it depends on really your personal, career or whatever, when you feel that is the right moment. I did it and then I did it a bit late because probably I was not really trusting myself enough. I didn't do the things I had to do earlier in my career because I was not trusting myself enough. So do not make this mistake. But I did it when I became general manager of.
I think it's needed, like it's something that at a certain point you need to do if you want to become like a good manager and so on.
I would say yes, because when I did the MBA, I learned about how to connect my engineering studies with the company, the financials, the HR, the balance sheet, the profit and loss. So it helped a great deal. I would say yes. This is mandatory, that's the right file? No, I don't think so. For me, it helped.
So if there was one, which you think was the most difficult task that you've done during your career?
Difficult task? What do you mean? Be specific about what?
I mean, a complex situation that you need to solve.
Well, this one was not really selling a company. I wouldn't say that when you say difficult, I wouldn't say it was difficult. I learned a great deal here. I did a lot of that, but it's not easy to. I would say it's not easy because we have tried several times. Several times, companies approached us to buy the Inkel. It didn't work. We learned a lot of all these experiences, and then it happened. So that's the thing. Maybe because it's the most recent, that's availability bias. So the most recent, but probably there are other things that have been also complicated. But yeah, let me tell you another one. I think I can share that. But when I became general, well, I also try to answer your question in a way. How do you become a general manager? I had a question like this. Okay, how can I do this? I don't know. How did it happen? Because the general manager was fired. Well, and before that, actually, I was in supply chain manager, doing my job in a good way, very, I'm doing well. There was a general manager, the crash of 2009, it was really bad in Italy. We reduced the headcount, they reduced the headcount. There were 3 managers, one, it was me, and the other 2. The general manager fired 2 or 3. I don't know why, but I stayed. So probably he had in mind that I could be the next one, I don't know, but I was lucky to be the only one who stayed. In a moment that was really difficult.
Okay, so you have been involved in many acquisition processes from the both buyer side and now from the seller side. So why do you think acquisition deals fall off, and what went right in this case? And what about this acquisition that you said it's been a difficult process? What's so difficult about it, and what could have been done better? Could you share?
The first part of the question was?
Why do deals, you said your company once tried to acquire Intel, it didn't go off, but this time it was fine. What is a good deal that goes through, and why do they fall off?
So for an acquisition to go through, I think timing is important. What I mean by that is, okay, you get interest, and why it falls off is sometimes you stay too much time into the negotiation phase. Things can go really in an unpredictable way. Well, that's one thing. Another thing is if there is chemistry between the 2 parties, because at the end of the day, it's always a negotiation between people. One of the criteria is you look at in the face of the people and say, can we work together? And even if you say yes, it's not easy then to do the post-acquisition because there are a lot of variables that you don't know. How people react, how you integrate, the difference in culture. So these are, why do they fall? Because of these. In our case was the owner really changed his mind, but And again, when I say timing is important because we had another negotiation with another company. It was really hot at one point, and then we dragged too much, and 3 months later it was not anymore. So you cannot stay too much time, too long in one place. So, but especially, I think it's a matter of chemistry when you see. But of course, it has to make business sense for the company who acquires you. That's important.
And this acquisition that happened, you said that it's been like quite an experience. What do you think has been most difficult about it, and what could have been? You said you have your ideas of what could have been improved. So, what do you think could have made the transaction smoother? What's the problem, and what could have made it smoother?
I would reply in general because I cannot say the specific. One of the things is, so actually we did it really quickly because they like the technology. In general, when you try to acquire, well, you want to make sure that you understand what you buy, which assets you're buying, and how you protect your assets. And I'm trying to say it in a very more generic and try to bring not this one, but other, because I cannot disclose.
Did you say it's all public now?
It's all public, I cannot disclose. But what we could have done better in other cases where we, failed to acquire, it could have been, in our case, the financial structure counts when you do a deal, because then the acquirer feels, especially in the US, they want to see cash right away and not payment terms that are delayed. And the other thing is secure your asset in a way that you have a post-integration. The post-integration is also something we are living now. It's important that we understand each other. One of the biggest mistakes probably that companies do, and that's what I tell the CEO, is, I hope we will not do this, is to, when you acquire, you believe that it's yours. So you do whatever you want and you copy and paste. And I'm telling you about this experience now. So one of the things I realized is that when I was in South Carolina managing an Italian company, a parent Italian company with a subsidiaries for all US people, they were frustrated because they never understood what they wanted to do here because there was a kind of a copy and paste. No, but neither we do this. Yes.
You mentioned a lot of companies from Italy, and of course you're working out here in the US. How do you see Italian companies in the semiconductor industry and the European bloc as a whole doing as compared to the US companies and Asian companies? Like, how do you see competition moving forward in the next few years? Do you think that European companies are well positioned to compete, or?
You ask always questions about the market and things. That's interesting. I wish I knew, but in Italy, what do you have? You have ST Microelectronics, you have Infineon, we have Bosch. There are a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of, what about, I'm worried about what happened with Taiwan and China, because a lot of the US market depends on that. So if something happens there, I hope it will not, but it will affect a lot of companies. Even if US is now trying to, it's investing a lot of money here, Intel and other companies, which is not doing well. Probably the Asian market, I don't know how China is going to, what is going to become, because they're becoming much better than before. It started when we outsourced the manufacturing to China, but now China has their own technology. But how, I think the US is still, I'm just guessing because I really don't know, still very strong with that. Because one of the trends that is happening now is that there is a kind of vertical integration. AI companies are investing in silicon. So now it's not strange to hear that Amazon has their own chipsets, like Facebook. Do you know that? Google is investing in that. All the big giants, Tesla, I guess. So they're basically building their teams and investing in semiconductors. So the scenario is changing in this way. So of course they are using fabs outside, like TSMC or big companies, but the chip design is now internal. So a lot of money, they have a lot of money. Apple, they do the chipsets since many years already.
And related to that, do you see anyway niches in which people like starting out of a garage can create value and build companies, or do you think it's going to be more and more it's going to be done with the big companies?
Why not? Because these big companies, at the end, they buy companies all the time. They don't grow all this technology. What they do is they have so much money that they just let you build your own thing, just do it, and they will acquire you. So I would say, why not? I wouldn't say that it's now, not because it happened already, it's not going to happen again. I think there will be startups, there will be always great ideas, and there will be always people like you who will invent next thing. And the difference will be that instead of an investor, once you start to see the light of a lot of revenue, they will acquire you with a lot of money.
And last, recommended reads to get like a little bit of the basics of the sector, some knowledge in general. Do you have any?
About what?
Recommended reads to get a little bit of a grasp of how the sector is moving, where it's going, for non-technical people.
Regarding the sector, no. Regarding my books, I have a list here. Because that's all I think. I said, like, what can I tell them? I think what I can share with you is my list of books, which I believe are interesting, but they are not in the sector. You mean in the semiconductor? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe market research is more valuable to you if you want to see how the market evolves, but I don't have a book for this kind of question, for your request. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Good luck.